Hey guys, welcome back to Inside Psych. Today, we're going to answer the top question I'm always asked, which is how I got to work at a psych hospital, what credentials I needed, and why I got there. But I'm also going to hit on how I get there pretty hard because a lot of people asked how I found the psych hospital and why I gave up my job at a regular children's hospital to go to a psych facility. So yeah, let's go. Sad that I actually hope my old job sees this video, so if you work there, feel free to send this to him. Just kidding, don't do that because I'm gonna be honest, but it is what it is. Also, if you haven't, like, subscribe, comment, turn the little bell notification on. Look at this chart. Literally 78% of you don't follow me, but you watch my videos. Please subscribe. I want to hit 100,000 by April. That's my goal. Anyway, today's video is going to be very interesting, very full of tea, very juicy. I usually don't talk about drama on my channel because I don't like being that drama channel, but there's a lot of tea and a lot of drama on how I ended up at the psych hospital. So, well, I don't even know where to begin because it was just so much. I guess I could do like a timeline because I'll do the timeline of like where I was working previously, why I left, why the atmosphere is toxic, how I got to the psych hospital, and why I work there and like what you need to work there, because I know a lot of people in my comments are always like, I want to work there, and I want to like give you guys like some info on how you can apply for jobs, so that'll be towards the end. I just said it, so I had to rewind what I was saying. So I used to work at a TV station. We're not even going to say like why I left there. It's just morals. That's a whole video in itself. But then I went from a TV station to a children's hospital. And that's like before I met Grace. 2 locations and one change of schedule before I switched, and I'm going to tell you why. And maybe if you're in a toxic work environment, I want you to watch this video all the way through. And I didn't realize it was toxic until I left and got an amazing job with amazing bosses and realized that the department I was working in truly was toxic and not good. So I want you guys to kind of like listen to it. I've never opened up about this. I guess if they see it, maybe they can grow on it. So I started out working. I was very thankful for this job. I made friends through it, but my higher ups were absolutely amazing. The ones below, absolutely love them. The managers that I had directly were an absolute nightmare, and it happened every single time. And it wasn't just one occurrence. It was like I changed departments, within the department 3 different times because I was like, maybe I love this place, I love the job, I love the hospital. Like maybe if I find a good boss, I can stay, and it never happened. I can vouch for if you're in the nursing department or anywhere else, their bosses are amazing. It was literally just my department. It was just my direct managers, which I don't actually think any of them still work there. And so that's interesting. But if you're in a toxic work environment, this might help you. So every day I went to work, I was always the issue. I was never good enough. They always had something to critique me on. They would laugh when I walked by. They would make fun of me. They really didn't care anything about me. And I guess I could do a whole video on toxic workplaces, but the last straw for me was I was always getting bullied by one of my coworkers, and they never believed me. They never did anything about it. At the time, the guy wasn't my direct manager. He was the manager that was like next to it, or boss. I don't know what you call him, supervisor. They were literally one person ahead of me. And they were always like either laughing, starting rumors, being rude, being just mean to me. They always had something to say about me, but they never had anything to say about other people, which really got in my head. And I was like, am I the issue? Am I the issue? I have to be the issue. What's wrong with me? And that lasted for about 1.5 years. I just was so in my head that it affected my home life too. Like I couldn't really like do anything I wanted because I was always being told I was the issue. It was me. It was my fault for this. And like the way, I won't tell too much about the work, but you had to get a 95% on everything, and I always had between a 96 and a 98%. So they could never like get mad at me for my work because my work was really good. They always had something to say, and anytime you call in, they would guilt you. They'd make you feel bad. I was always being called in the office for something, and I would be like, oh, here's a perfect example, you'll love this. There was a mom who fell to her knees crying, right? Bawling, fell to her knees crying, and I saw her, and I ran over, I said, are you okay? She just started crying, and I took her into the waiting room where there was like a separate little waiting room, got her tissues, and just sat with her. We didn't talk. I got written up because that was not my job, and I was supposed to leave her on the floor crying. Toxic work environment. That is what they said. That I was not allowed to talk to her. Even though I didn't talk to her, if you see someone collapse to their knees bawling, your first instinct's to check on them. I did nothing, but anyway, I got a warning for that, and that's kind of what prompted me. I was like, are you kidding me? And then it was just stuff like that, you know. I would take my 15-minute break, and they'd call me back and be like, why were you gone for 15 minutes? I was taking my 15 break. Meanwhile, there was someone else taking a 2-hour break, sleeping in their car, and every time I brought that up, I was still the bad guy. But anyway, it was just a very toxic work environment. And so I got in a massive car wreck, and I had to call in, obviously, and they didn't like that. I called my best friend who worked at the hospital because obviously I was not okay, and I called her and was like, can you let them know, because I knew her number by heart. I was like, can you call and let them know I won't be in? I'll call them shortly after, like, I've been in this bad car wreck. So I called, and then my boss called me to yell at me while I'm in pain, crying, freaking out. It was a horrible wreck, and basically said that I was in the wrong for all of this. And I was like, I was gonna call you, give me an hour, like I was just in a lot of pain. That was it. At that point I was like, I called my therapist, and she's like, this is a toxic work environment. She'd been telling me for months that it was a toxic work environment, and I was like, I think you're right, I think I have to leave. So I was talking to Grace that night, and she's like, look, I used to work for the psych hospital, you know, it can be a temporary job. You can go there, you can work for a little bit, wait till you find another job. They offered me a really good job there, and I can remember the day I turned in my 2-week notice, I smiled. It felt like I could breathe again. I felt like I was getting a fresh start, and at that point, everyone in the department was leaving because they could see how narcissistic our bosses were and how awful they were, so everyone was leaving. Everyone was leaving, and so that day that I left, I just remembered, I was like, I am finally be able to start over. And that's when I started working at the psych hospital. Here's how working at the psych hospital changed everything and really showed me what a toxic work environment is. If I call into the psych hospital, they don't guilt me. They don't punish me. I mean, you get a point, but they don't like make you feel less of a person like my previous job did. They're like, hey, okay, are you feeling okay? Like, keep us posted. Let us know how you feel. If you need anything, let us know. We'll check on you. And they literally, most of the time, check on you. And then if you need a break, even though I would say most of the time we don't get breaks, they will at least come and apologize to you and say, hey, we're sorry. Another thing is, I will say this, at a job, I was told I was the issue for months because I was outgoing, I was the bubbly one, while everyone else really wasn't, but like, I was told I was the issue for months. I was put down for 2 years at this job. I was told so many negative things that got in my head, so many things. I think they actually just told me to get in my head because they were jealous, because at that time I had started social media with makeup. I think they were just jealous and they just didn't like what I was doing. But then I went to this psych hospital and became like, I flourished. The staff loved me. My bosses have never once had an issue with me. They trust me. They rely on me. I've moved up. They taught me what a great work environment was as an employee. Whereas the hospital I had before was previously good at benefits, but I ended up at the psych hospital and they treat you like a human. Minus the fact that a lot of the issues come from like short staffing, but the staffing really isn't from like the whole management itself. It's from like the work we're doing. Even though management's rough at the new place, it will never compare to the job that I was at previously. So we get to the hospital and I start working, and the job's a lot harder than I think. And my bosses were like, it's gonna be hard, but you're gonna get through it. And in my head, I'm like, 3 months, that's all I need. I'm gonna find a new job. Well, 3-month mark comes around and I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I love the kids. I love the job. I love helping people. And then it hits me. I was giving something at the psych hospital that I was never given at my old job, which was a chance. I was given a chance to show myself, where at this place, they knew, like, at the previous place, they just didn't care. I was a number to them because they were a big facility. I was just a number. I was just a person that they could pick on, where at this place, they gave me the opportunity. They loved me. I did great. I love it. To work at one of these though, like, I was gonna go through like the different things, but I wanted to give you 4 ways you can know that you're working for a narcissistic company or a bad toxic work environment. One is you're always the issue, even when your coworkers are telling you you are not the issue, and you're constantly asking the higher ups if you're an issue and they say no, but your managers are making you the issue and blaming everything on you. Even if it wasn't you, they're blaming you. They're blaming you. So that's like the biggest key is if they're blaming you for everything and you go to the higher ups and the higher ups and HR say, no, you're a great employee, we love you, but your managers are twisting the stories to make you feel like a bad person, that's it. If you're constantly being put down, I was constantly being made fun of. Someone always had something to say about my outfit, my hair, my looks, my whatever. They always had something. Again, the higher ups never had an issue with me. They loved me. If you're being guilted to call in, you get sick. You can be sick. Sick days happen. It's life. You're going to get sick, especially during a pandemic, which I wasn't at a pandemic then. But if they're guilting you and putting you down because you're calling in, bad environment. Don't work there. If they're comparing your work to everyone else and saying your work is not good, but literally you have the same numbers as everyone else who is striving, bad environment. My numbers were just as good as anyone else. They just didn't like me for some reason. Bad environment. And everyone kept telling me for months to quit. Everyone kept saying they're taking everything out on you. They don't know why. They love me. They're like, you need to leave. Like, you got to find a better job because this place is so toxic and they're taking it out on you. Here's 4 ways I learned at the psych hospital that it was a good environment. I can call in and not be bullied. I have an open communication line with my bosses. So like if I have a question, I can go to them, which I never could go to those bosses because I was always scared that they were going to write me up for something that they were going to make up. I can openly go to my psych hospital bosses and be like, hey, can you understand, like, explain the protocol for me for this? And they'd be like, of course, XYZ, and go through it. If my bosses have an issue with anything I'm doing, they will pull me aside politely and tell me. Like, there was one day, I remember when I first started, and I guess I didn't realize that I couldn't have cans, which makes sense. You can't have cans, and I need to go over that, but you can't have cans. You can have bottles of drinks, but you can't have cans. They pulled me aside, and they're like, hey, and this is like a year in. I just never thought of it. And they're like, hey, you're like one of our favorite people. You do great. We love you. And they're like, we don't want you to stop mean, but you can't have the can on the unit. Can you throw it away? And I was like, oh, of course. And they're like, it's just a safety hazard. They made sure that I knew why it was a safety hazard. They were very kind. They were very sweet. They made me get rid of it. Very understanding. Did not belittle me. Didn't write me up. Understood that accidents or mistakes happen. That was a good work environment. Another one is that my boss over at this hospital never did anything. They would walk around, they'd be gone for 2 hours, they would not be on the floor helping, they'd just do whatever they wanted. They'd gossip with all the nurses. It was awful. My boss is here, come on the environment, help, check on the kids, build a relationship with the kids, talk to them, they have fun with them, they get them things if they need it. Just a very, very, very different work environment. Let's talk about the mental health aspect of it. We're going to call hospital A the toxic one. Hospital B, non-toxic. That's the psych hospital's B. When I worked at A, I was constantly coming home in tears, constantly stressed, constantly put down, constantly doubting myself, constantly in therapy. And the only thing I would talk about in therapy was my job. Red signs. B, happy, content, coming home calm, even though it was a stressful job, but didn't compare. Wasn't self-doubting myself so much, kind of felt better about myself. Over here, I was terrified to talk to my bosses, terrified of always losing my job for no reason because HR and the higher ups said I never had to worry because I was a great employee. Constantly comparing myself to others, wondering why I wasn't good enough. Constantly, unfortunately, at that job, I was SI because the job added a lot to me, and that was when I was at my lowest. And just really felt like every time I left work that I was nothing because I was made to feel like nothing. Over here, happy, great, no SI, flourishing, never put down. Bosses never belittled me, so I felt pretty good. Never felt bad. Usually when I leave a shift, I feel pretty good. I feel like I've made a difference in the world a little bit. And I could go to my bosses for anything. And I'm not saying that like every hospital and psych hospital is going to be this drastic. I just want to do a comparison between toxic jobs and good jobs and why I left the hospital I was at that's really well known and went to a psych hospital. But I also wanted to hit on the point of what credentials you need to work in a psych hospital, which I know I just talked for like 10 minutes, but I felt like it was really important to like hit toxic work environments to kind of like show you the difference. And then I'll do a full video one day on like every single job position there. I'm not going to talk about my job position there because I don't want to give too many details out, but I will talk about the 2 most popular jobs at the psych hospital and the qualifications you need to work there. So at our psych hospital, you have to be 23 years or older to work there. And that's because they don't want people too young because it can be traumatizing, and it is a hard, stressful job. It is. They hire people first who have degrees. So most people have their associates. I have my bachelor's. Most people have their associates. You have to have your CNA. That's just because you never know what kind of kids we're going to get. Some of them have disabilities. They like people who are in social work or counseling therapist programs. So like myself, I'm going to get my master's. They liked that. There isn't tuition reimbursement there anymore, I don't think. That was one of the cons. The other hospital had it, but they didn't. But those are just like the staff roles, and the staff's the one who runs the whole unit and runs everything. The therapist, obviously, bachelor's, master's degree. They work there per their state testing. Our bosses have bachelor degrees. Some of them have masters in business management, I think, or healthcare management. Are the higher ups, and then I don't know above them, but those are like the main staples there. So we do have LPNs and RNs and BSNs. We have a lot of LPNs who are working on their BSN. Those are just levels of nursing, and then like the head supervisor of all of it, I think, has her master's in nursing. If you want to work at a psych hospital, they say you have to be, you have to be not in a psych hospital, obviously, but if you stayed at ours, you have to be out of there for 6 to 8 years before you can come back, and I'm pretty sure that's to cycle through, so there are no kids that are there when you were there last. Because there are 2 staff who I know were there as kids, and will tell you that they were there as kids, and they use it to help, relate to the kids. Asked all the time though is like, do I miss the hospital I was at before? Would I stay in it? I would say I don't miss that hospital anymore. The psych hospital has literally changed my life. I have a video coming out next week on how the psych hospital has changed my life. But I think it's important to realize like sometimes the best things in life happen when we're not expecting it. I was not expecting to stay at this job this long. I was not expecting to love it as much. I was not expecting it to impact my life as it has. But I'm a firm believer, and if you're not religious, that's okay, but God has a plan, and I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And looking back at the original toxic job I had, it showed me that I can be stronger, and that it really showed me what to watch out for with bosses and managers and work environments. I think it's important though to notice toxic work environments, toxic places, toxic, like for the 2 years I was there, I did not know it was toxic. I literally thought I was just the issue with everyone's life. Like that I was literally put down and felt like I am the issue in the world. And the world is not doing well because of me. And the reason the hospital was doing this was because of me. When in fact, they were just taking it out on me. And you have to realize, and even my therapist said it for months, and sometimes it takes a while for it to click with you. If it takes a while for you to get out of a toxic work environment, it does. But I'll tell you this, when the timing's right, you'll know. And I knew. I literally woke up one morning and go, I'm putting my 2 weeks in. I can't do this anymore. And I did it. And I felt amazing. So if you're in a toxic work environment and you need out, do it. And I know someone's going to be in the comments going, if everyone had an issue with you, it was you. I now believe that it isn't and wasn't me. I think I just had 2 really bad bosses and they just took everything out on me for some reason. And that's what my therapist said and my psychiatrist and literally everyone I worked with but them, and management and HR. So if that's going to be your comment, please don't put that. It did take me a long time to come out of that mindset. It took a lot of therapy sessions. It took a lot of me talking to my new bosses, and I like to think that I did the best I could and I was a good employee, and I made a lot of friends there. And yeah, so I hope this was a good video, little insightful. I love you guys. Remember, it might be a bad day with you, but it's not a bad life.